Good evening. Today is Monday. This is the week after FOMC and mini tech earnings and non-farm payrolls on Friday. And just a lot of other data, to be honest, of last week. Very, very volatile week. We'll go over just that briefly. I mean, you can look at the candles here. But this is primarily going to be the focus on today. Um, as of last night, as you look at this, this may look like a typical chart, but we had a small gap down to start Sunday. So let me clean this up a lot. So this should help out. These are 15-minute candles here. We had a gap down, tried to close that gap, ended up falling, and we ended up selling off really big time. Again, this may not seem like much here, but from this range, from the gap down, which was like 20 points. So let's say if we do the high of that overnight to the low, that is 4.2%. So this is actually one of the biggest sell-off days that we had. I believe the NASDAQ sold off. I don't know the percentage, but they were about 1,000 points. I'm gonna confirm here. 1,040, 5.65%. All in one day. All in one day in about 8 hours. And that was from the market open on Sunday. So we have some halting in Japan and South Korea. Things were getting pretty dicey over there. And of course we had sympathies and then just equities just falling overnight just in general. So very, very scary coming into the day. There was a lot of fear, a lot of talks about it being Black Monday. The VIX ended up going extremely high. I'll see if I can pull this up. I can only go back so far, but this is just the vol VIX here. But we ended up going back to 2021 levels, 2020, which was during COVID. So extremely volatile, all kind of panic selling, and it just didn't stop. Again, we'll take a quick look at that action a little later on. So allow me to digress. We're already 3 minutes in. So we're just going to go through our same process. Though things were a little busy today, doesn't mean we need to deviate from what we're doing. So we'll keep this simple. Just pulling this up here. Just bear with me. All right. Our objective is to objectively glean information from MGI. We want this to be as clear and concise with the name to do better with each session. After we touch all these bases, we will spend a short time theorizing and looking deeper into the current action. On the docket for today, again, I kind of laid down the foundation. This is a follow-up from an extremely weak session from Friday. Sell-off, overnight continuation, sell-off, and balance lower on not the best earnings, and just a poor week overall, and geopolitical tensions as well. So just a very bearish start just in the beginning. So this week we really just wanted to take the lighter data that we have for the week, which I'll flip through right now. Again, not too much here. You can pause if you like. ISM 530, 645, 7, 530, 530. Actually, this is, don't pay attention to this. And just a little data, real light this week, and not too much on earnings. You can pull it up here. We do have this healthcare going on right here. We have Disney, CVS, Robinhood, Rivian will be pretty important for Tesla, and just a few others. Okay, got it. So that's for the week. Again, our main objective for the week. These are weekly candles. We wanted to balance up here in the beginning. Balance up here. We can look at the the market profile shortly, but we're trying to build volume higher as well as we can. Given the gap down, that pretty much changed everything because it was just a fight from the very beginning, and we had to pretty much fight the whole day from the buyer side. The sellers did a wonderful job with the gap down and continually pushing it with high volume. It's just some of the most volume that we've ever seen, but again, we'll look into that shortly. So just the overall narrative, build balance higher, basically. All right, so I'm not gonna look at the quarterly just because I just don't want to right now. But we have our weekly. We ended up going to basically 2021 levels, possibly 2020 as well, but I just can't check here at this very moment. So very strong wick here. This wick here is from 5120 to 5290, so 170 points, almost 200. And this is 1,000. This is 1,000 on the NASDAQ. If you look at the daily, we have our gap down, which was from 18,570 to 18,400. So about 170 points, 160 points. And then with 1,000 points down. But a very solid hold, close, and continuation. So far, we already broke that one time framing on the NASDAQ. Take a a closer look at the S&P 500. Same situation, we're trading back at 2021 levels. Nice spike, and yeah, just a nice down spike overall, just in general. You know, this isn't unexpected from the buyers, given the amount of people that are stuck from these previous areas that's been bag holding. The market needed a good, exhaustive breath. However, we are still one time framing lower, very weak on this side. If we want to take a better look at the actual breadth and see how we found ourselves in this situation, we'll see we're down 3% overall. No one has done well. The best we had was consumer staples, which should be like the defensive stocks, I believe. Yes. And the defensive stocks are one of the best ones, industrials, even the ones that's been breaking out was a bad performer for the day as well. Tech led us here. Just taking a quick peek. Curious for tech. Who did the worst? Nvidia. I believe Amazon has been selling off pretty hard as well. Tesla. Nice. All right, we'll go ahead and stop there. So we have a good idea of where we're at on the monthly, where we're at on the weekly, where we are on the daily. We're still not too bad for the NASDAQ. This is much more bullish. Not bullish, excuse me. Let me not say that. Um, this may be a bit overdone to the downside in the short term for the tech, given the overall large trend that we're on, but this is damaging price action. So, I mean, we don't really have enough information from what we can see. For the S&P 500, we're still holding these areas from May. From April, yeah, they're about in the same position for April. NASDAQ pretty much ticked below here and bounced up. So, I mean, if this was on a shorter time frame, as we believe in fractals, this will be a buy for me, especially if we have a hold this next day or if we can close this gap. Preferably close above this high and these lows, this closer area. Get back into this zone, basically above the 5 SMA. I'm not sure about the S&P 500 to be honest, but we will need to see tech firm up because if not, this can get pretty bad. We have a lot of room. But let's continue. So we understand our trend is still going to be on the downside. Bears are totally in control. lower high, lower low, high volume, multiple sellers. The delta was negative 40K, I believe, at market open, something like that. We're about neutral here on the Nasdaq. Just checking time. We're at 12. We're at 11 minutes. We're doing well. Do we have any key zones? I said the other day that I was going to do my chart write-ups, and I have not. My annotations. This would have gave us something to kind of be mindful of in this area here, but you know, that's kind of just part of it. So yeah, any key areas that we can see here, given this massive candle here, I would imagine we may balance within this zone here, maybe peak above, maybe peak below, depending on how bad we get. But just understanding more people that have experience than me at this game, and that I somewhat trust, not trust in that way, but I respect their thoughts. They mentioned once we get in a situation like this, we typically look for limit downs because a limit down would be about 7%. It looks like it may be in a week. I'm not exactly sure. I need to learn more about this myself. But 7%, and we're getting a little closer there. That could definitely happen. NASDAQ almost reached to that point. I'm not sure if that happens. Does it have to be on the S&P 500? I'm not exactly sure. Again, I need to learn more, but this can get interesting from here, and this is uncharted territory for me. Although I do believe in fractals, and this just appears to be another down spike, liquidation, and a possibly reversal attempt. That's thinking about what the market may do or where it goes. And we don't get paid to know stuff. We don't get paid to have ideas. We don't get paid to theorize and predict. We get paid to execute and manage risk. And as we head into tomorrow, the only way that we can even think about being any kind of possibility for buying. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I believe this is incredibly important. So just all of this as a whole, yeah, then I'll do my notes on exactly the verbiage that I want to put here, but I believe these zones are going to be important. We need to get this gap. Yeah, see, we need to trade above here. This is from 53.80 to about 53.45. Be interesting for longs here. Anything else under here? Definitely looking more towards the shorts. As we get closer to this area, nah, I'm not really sure, but we'll learn more once we look into the market profile. Quick time check. We're at almost 14 minutes. Got it. So we have all this information here. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we understand that we're still on the bear side. That we'll be interested in longs if we can get above that area with a possibility to push into more structure. But as we look more into the market profile, I think we'll understand why that may not be the best idea with these high volume node shells above us. Looking at the footprint, again, we went over our delta. We have sellers hanging around. We're about neutral here. This is some of the highest volume I've ever seen. And I said that yesterday. And then we trumped that by almost 100,000. Ranges, it's immaculate. We got about 1,000 on tech and over 220 for the ES. It's lovely. If we take a quick look at these, we'll see thin volume, thin volume. Of course, we'll look at this on the market profile. This was a normal day, so somewhat balanced, but a nice slip through and up for the overnight session. Even right now with the volume, this is already more than this 130,000. This is about what we were seeing all the way until 6 a.m. when we're at all-time highs. We're having this, several hours into the session, in the overnight session. So this speaks volumes to the volume that we're seeing. So as we look a little closer, we came down from here. Be interested to see where these buyers stepped in. And we have some buyers and we have a fair amount of sellers here. The majority of the sellers here are going to be near this VPOC, and they, as we can see now, will be underwater. And we can clearly see that there is an imbalance of the sellers that are remaining, especially given the overran this price action may have run. I didn't say that correctly, but they've been caught off sides, possibly. We did say the same thing in this situation here. After this was the 23rd, we went here, and all these sellers ended up being caught off guard. But we did note in the video that we ended the day with sellers right on target and buyers being stuck. That has not happened here. We have buyers that are in profit. So interesting. We have some good position for buyers, bad position for bears. And again, the majority of this volume was traded under where we're at now. So this will be another situation where they can burst through and hold overnight, but we have to sustain volume higher. I had to compress this even more for 2 points. So this would be a little strange, but more volume was done a little lower. We agreed higher. Again, we have really good positioning for the bulls, not so much for the bears. Just nice overall. And we see the battles kind of commencing now still. Possibility that these buyers may be a target to get out of their positions if they are left over. All right, we'll go ahead and continue here, make some quick notes on the market profile. Again, we're trading below our contract premium for the S&P 500. This was the liquidation day. And then we have today, which opened up on Sunday as a continuation, sold through, sold down with this very scary, almost limit down day. It looks very similar to all these other days. This is not, but it is. Same situation. We went down, we tried to battle up, we went down some more. We had this little bullish V-shaped reversal, pulled back, held, and now we're starting to drift up. Ideally, we want to remain above this level. We need to remain above this level, and then we have the hello. I mean, yeah, it's really this level. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put this is really just the value zone. This is just a big level in general. I'm just gonna put this as just like putting this as gray, just a high volume node. I'm going to put a note here. These are a little more ambiguous. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right information. It's no longer July. Nice. Other than that, that's really it. Not really many singles besides down here at the low. It's going to be somewhat expected. Everything else, it was a steady grind down. Really not too much to say. This is a lot of volume that I don't have really on my charts, but this is going to be a very good shelf to fall upon for support. If we do get up under this, it's going to be lights out for it is going to be lights out for the buyers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Gonna put this on for a down breach for tomorrow. If we get below this 5200, that's gonna be key. Actually, I'm gonna turn this purple. Automatically, we're gonna have the same situation here on tech, but again, we have this higher balance, which is another bullish little sign hint. Look at all this volume that was taken a little higher and not lower. Do remember we dropped a whole 1,000 points. We came right back up here and held, and we're pushing above. So again, this is the type of action where we would end up pulling back to this area here, somewhere in the meat of this section here. I think that's going to be a fairly good zone. Sure. Yeah. Just give me a moment. I should be almost done. Let's see. Set only zones. So we have our zones created. We'll go ahead and save this. Alright, that's there. Alright, then we'll take a quick look at the action. We already had an idea. Again, these are in 15 minutes. I'm going to put this back down in my typical vantage point. So we already discussed overnight selling. And then we're going to check out. So the thing that I found really interesting actually showed up in the NASDAQ, and I notated it early in the morning, but it wasn't actionable for me at the time. I didn't pay attention to it. But basically lower highs and lower lows this whole time. Again, this is gigantic range. There wasn't any too particular important data here. Everything was pretty much exaggerated here. So I'll actually go to my other chart books. I still have it marked. And I'll briefly discuss what I was talking about for the NASDAQ. So the fact that at almost at 11 o'clock p.m. Pacific, we ended up having this flagpole here and pushed back up into VWAP, and then we made a higher high and then a higher low at 5:36, about 5:40 in the morning. This is very apparent in the morning, but I just got lost. I lost the forest for the trees. Looking at all this in real time with heightened emotions. We had our open. Go ahead and take out the full session. We had our open and pull back to both of these defended areas on the first candle and just completely push back up. So whether this will be an open test drive or an open drive, I'm not sure. But we barely had any kind of trading down and shot up all the way from 17,500 to 18,100. I mean, that's 600 points of range in 30 minutes. So, I mean, that's an incredibly bullish sign just from the beginning. And then we have our, well, actually, it was from 17,500 to, it was 400 points for 17,900. So, yeah, it was 400 points. This was the 7 a.m. data that pushed us over. That same posture didn't happen For the S&P 500, we kind of just melted down the entire time. Same price action though, with the open test drive / open drive pushed upwards, but notice how much weaker they were in the beginning. And then their impulse from the 7 a.m. didn't get us too far, just got us somewhere back in this zone. That is not the case for the NASDAQ that pushed us over that hump. Again, it's little small subtle clues like this that gives you a hint on potential action. So this would be a sign of not balance when we are pushing through areas like this and we're not coming back in. If we do come back in, we're just trading between these tight little ranges and pushing back up. So yeah, it was a balance, but the balance was higher. But we've already looked at that on the market profile. This is just what it looks like in the candle form. So again, all this we already know. This was just in the market profile. We stayed primarily into this SOC zone this entire time and closed above the IB high. It's really not too much else to talk about. All right, we're at 26 minutes here. This one's going to be a little longer. So yeah, it's just balance higher. We gap down. We gap down, traded down, tried to balance, higher balance for NQ. You can see signs. We ended up having a higher low, which was pretty pronounced. Not so much for the S&P 500. We had a open drive / open test drive for the first bracket. We had the 7 a.m. SOC candle that we traded in between. I'm assuming just due to exhaustion at that point. All this is still pretty high volume, and we just ended up with a higher balance. Technically, I guess a trend up day. Actually, it wouldn't be trend. No, yeah. I think this would be considered a trend up day if I'm not mistaken. So very solid day for the bulls overall. Though this is still record breaking and ominous for many people. Looking at the subtle clues, the market doesn't lie. So we've already looked at the sectors. So we just ask ourselves, just the final questions. Where's the market coming from? We've already went through this. This was the gap down. Our goal is to get back into this gap up. We're definitely here for the NASDAQ, pretty close. Not so much for the S&P 500. What did they try to accomplish today? The goal was to balance higher within the previous day, but we started off balance with a disadvantage and just completely just sold off the entire time. So really it was just damage control and balance higher. Didn't happen for the S&P 500, though this is still strong, but I'll be eyeballing the NQ much more throughout the next days to see how they trade. So just for long setups and looking forward, it'd be interesting to look at the NASDAQ. Any surprises? Just really the overnight selling off. And how do we finish? Really higher balance. Technically, it was a trend up day for the RTH session, but we ended up just being basically balanced in a very structure breaking bearish day. So it's kind of hard to tell who has the advantage. I think it's just one of those times where you're in school and they ask you a somewhat vague question and you just have to respond, I don't have enough information. So we'll see what we look like tomorrow morning. If we do come out overly bullish, I think it's best to not step in front of the freight train based off of what we've seen in the previous sessions, because there's a lot of people involved now given the higher volume, and I don't know these people. The market is acting a bit strange. You really just need to be incredibly patient and have confidence with your risks, and if you have poor positioning, not give too much space to your stops. You may just have to be a little more patient and get in with a better opportunity. But as of right now, still looking to the bearish side, but if we start off fairly bullish, if we open up above these zones, I'm gonna be looking for reasons to buy until we get into more congested areas. All right, go ahead and close it.